The year is 1939, a pivotal moment in the annals of history. Across the globe, tensions simmer, creating an atmosphere thick with uncertainty and fear. The First World War, a conflict that shook the very foundations of civilization, has left deep scars, both visible and invisible. Yet from the ashes of that devastating war, new conflicts and ideologies emerge, setting the stage for an even greater global struggle, World War II. Political landscapes shift, and new leaders rise, each with their own vision for the future. This is not just a dry recitation of dates and battles, it is a complex tapestry of human experiences and emotions. It is a story of courage and sacrifice, of tyranny and resilience, and of the enduring human spirit in the face of unimaginable adversity. Families torn apart, communities shattered, yet hope and bravery persist. The world watched with bated breath as events unfolded, each day bringing new developments that would shape the course of history. In Europe, the ominous shadow of Nazi Germany loomed large, led by the enigmatic and ruthless Adolf Hitler. His speeches and propaganda fueled a dangerous ideology. Driven by a dangerous ideology of racial supremacy and territorial expansion, Hitler's Germany embarked on a campaign of aggression, blatantly defying the fragile peace established by the Treaty of Versailles. The world watched in horror as the Nazi war machine rolled forward. Meanwhile in Asia, Imperial Japan, fueled by its own imperial ambitions, launched a brutal war of aggression against China, further destabilizing the already precarious global order. The atrocities committed during this period shocked the world. These acts of aggression did not go unanswered. The world began to mobilize in response. Nations around the world recognized the grave danger posed by the Axis powers, Germany, Italy, and Japan. The call to arms was clear and urgent. The Allied forces, led by Great Britain, the United States, and the Soviet Union, rose to meet this challenge, determined to defend freedom and democracy against the encroaching darkness. Their leaders strategized and planned, knowing the stakes were nothing less than the future of the world. What followed was a conflict of unprecedented scale and ferocity, a truly global war that would forever alter the course of human history. Cities were bombed, lives were lost, and the world was changed irrevocably. This is the story of World War II, a tale of heroism and sacrifice, of technological innovation and military strategy, and of the enduring power of the human spirit in the face of overwhelming odds. It is a narrative that encompasses the full spectrum of human experience. It is a story that deserves to be told and retold, for in understanding the past we gain valuable insights into the present and the future. The lessons learned from this monumental conflict continue to resonate today, reminding us of the cost of war and the value of peace. To truly understand the outbreak of World War II, we must delve into the complex web of factors that set the stage for this global conflagration. This was not a war that erupted overnight, it was the result of years of unresolved tensions and ideological clashes that simmered beneath the surface. The seeds of war were sown in the aftermath of World War I, a conflict that left Europe in ruins and sowed the seeds of resentment and instability. The devastation was not just physical but also deeply psychological, affecting the collective consciousness of nations. The Treaty of Versailles, intended to ensure a lasting peace, instead imposed harsh penalties on Germany, fueling resentment and creating fertile ground for extremist ideologies to take root. The treaty's punitive measures crippled Germany's economy and humiliated its people, setting the stage for future conflict. In Germany, the economic and social turmoil of the interwar years provided a breeding ground for the rise of Adolf Hitler and his National Socialist or Nazi Party. The Great Depression exacerbated these conditions, leading to widespread unemployment and despair. Hitler's ideology, a toxic blend of nationalism, anti-Semitism, and militarism, resonated with a population desperate for a solution to their plight. His promises of economic recovery and national rejuvenation struck a chord with many Germans who felt betrayed by their own government and the international community. He skillfully exploited the grievances of the German people, promising to restore Germany to its former glory and avenge the humiliation of defeat in World War I. His charismatic oratory and propaganda machine galvanized a nation in turmoil. Meanwhile, in Italy, Benito Mussolini's fascist regime embraced a similar ideology of nationalism and authoritarianism. Mussolini's vision of a new Roman Empire appealed to Italians disillusioned by economic hardship and political instability. Mussolini, driven by a desire to restore the Roman Empire to its former glory, embarked on a campaign of military expansion, conquering Ethiopia in 1935. This aggressive move was a clear signal of Italy's imperial ambitions. This act of aggression further emboldened the Axis powers and signaled the ineffectiveness of the League of Nations, the international organization formed after World War I to prevent future wars. The League's inability to curb such actions highlighted its weaknesses and encouraged further defiance. Across the globe in Asia, Imperial Japan, under the militaristic government of Emperor Hirohito, pursued its own expansionist ambitions. Japan's leaders sought to dominate Asia and secure resources to fuel their growing industrial power. Driven by a belief in their racial superiority and a desire for resources and territory, Japan launched a full-scale invasion of China in 1937, marking the beginning of the Second Sino-Japanese War. This brutal conflict would have far-reaching consequences for the region. The international community largely ignored Japan's aggression, emboldening the militaristic regime and contributing to the growing instability in the region. The lack of a unified response from global powers only served to encourage further acts of aggression. These unresolved tensions and clashing ideologies created a powder keg in the years leading up to World War II. The world was on edge, with nations arming themselves and alliances forming in anticipation of the inevitable conflict. It would only take a spark to ignite the flames of global conflict. The stage was set for a war that would engulf the world and change the course of history forever. That fateful spark came on September 1, 1939, when Nazi Germany, under the command of Adolf Hitler, launched a surprise attack on Poland. This act of aggression, a blatant violation of international law, shattered the fragile peace that had held since the end of World War I. In response to Germany's unprovoked aggression, Great Britain and France, bound by treaty obligations to defend Poland's sovereignty, declared war on Germany 2 days later. World War II had begun. The German invasion of Poland showcased a new form of warfare, blitzkrieg or lightning war. This revolutionary military tactic relied on speed, surprise, and overwhelming force to quickly overwhelm the enemy. German tanks, supported by dive bombers and mobile infantry, smashed through Polish defenses, rapidly advancing deep into Polish territory. The Polish army, though bravely resisting the German onslaught, was ill-equipped to counter the speed and ferocity of the blitzkrieg. As the world watched in horror, Poland fell swiftly to the Nazi war machine. The speed and brutality of the German invasion shocked the world, demonstrating the devastating potential of modern warfare. The fall of Poland marked the beginning of a long and bloody conflict, a war that would test the limits of human endurance and reshape the geopolitical landscape of the world. The opening salvos of World War II had been fired, and the world braced itself for a conflict of unprecedented scale and devastation. The battle lines were drawn, and the fate of the world hung in the balance. World War II was a global conflict, fought on multiple fronts across Europe, Asia, and Africa. The sheer scale of the war was unprecedented, involving more than 100 million people from over 30 countries. From the icy plains of Eastern Europe to the sweltering jungles of Southeast Asia, millions of soldiers clashed in a series of epic battles that would determine the fate of nations and shape the course of history. These battles were not just military engagements, but also human stories of bravery, sacrifice, and resilience. These pivotal engagements tested the limits of human endurance, showcased the horrors of modern warfare, and ultimately decided the outcome of the war. The landscapes of these battlefields were forever scarred, bearing witness to the intense and often brutal confrontations. In the early years of the war, the Axis powers led by Nazi Germany seemed unstoppable. Their rapid advances and early victories created a sense of invincibility that was hard to challenge. The Battle of France, launched in May 1940, saw the German army employing their devastating blitzkrieg tactics swiftly conquer France, a nation once considered a formidable military power. The speed and efficiency of the German advance left the world in shock. The fall of France sent shockwaves throughout the world, leaving Great Britain to stand alone against the Nazi war machine. The British Isles became the last bastion of resistance in Western Europe. The Battle of Britain, fought in the skies above England during the summer and fall of 1940, proved to be a turning point in the war. It was the first major campaign to be fought entirely by air forces. The German Luftwaffe, seeking to gain air superiority over the English Channel in preparation for a planned invasion of Britain, faced fierce resistance from the Royal Air Force. or RAF. The skies over Britain became a battleground where the future of the nation hung in the balance. The Battle of Britain, a testament to the courage and determination of the RAF pilots, many of whom were young men barely out of their teens, ultimately thwarted Hitler's plans for an invasion of Britain. Their bravery ensured that Britain remained free from occupation. On the Eastern Front, the Battle of Stalingrad, fought between August 1942 and February 1943, became a symbol of Soviet resistance against Nazi aggression. The battle was one of the deadliest in history, with staggering casualties on both sides. The battle, a brutal and costly struggle for control of the strategically important city of Stalingrad, marked a turning point in the war in the East. The Soviet defense and eventual counteroffensive broke the back of the German army. The Soviet victory at Stalingrad, achieved at an enormous human cost, shattered the myth of German invincibility, and marked the beginning of the long and arduous Soviet advance towards Berlin. This victory was a significant morale booster for the Allied forces. In the Pacific, the Battle of Midway, fought in June 1942, proved to be a decisive naval battle that turned the tide of the war in the Pacific against Japan. It was a clash that showcased the strategic importance of aircraft carriers in modern naval warfare. The battle, a clash of aircraft carriers and naval aviation, saw the United States Navy inflict a crushing defeat on the Imperial Japanese Navy, sinking 4 Japanese aircraft carriers and effectively halting Japan's advance across the Pacific. This victory shifted the balance of power in the Pacific theater. These are just a few of the pivotal battles that shaped the trajectory of World War II. Each battle had its own unique challenges and outcomes, but all were crucial in the larger context of the war. Each engagement, fought with courage and ferocity by soldiers on both sides, contributed to the ultimate Allied victory. The legacy of these battles continues to be remembered and honored to